Hey, it's Joe AMoia, founder and creator of GPSforlove.com. I was recently having a conversation with one of my private mentoring clients, and she had gone out with this guy, and she had a nice time. But then afterwards, I'm like, "So you're gonna go out with them again?" And she's like, "Nah." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" She's like, and this was it. Swear to God, he's too nice. Now, I got to admit, at first I was taken aback, primarily because this woman was used to dating buttholes. She said, the guys she's dated are jerks who lie, who don't show up, who try to take advantage of her on the first date and try to play tonsil hockey. And here was a guy who comes along who was a gentleman in every way. And so I was like, but isn't that what you're asking for? And and then she said, yeah, but he's too nice. And I got to admit at first that I was a little taken aback, primarily because it brought up my stuff. See, when I was younger, when I was back in college, I was interested in this girl, and she was interested in this other guy. And I had some of my friends who were female, and they're like, "Joe, you're too nice. She doesn't like nice guys." And it just blew my mind. Like, isn't that what a woman wants? Doesn't she want a nice guy? And this girl was attracted to the musician guy, the guy in the band, with the long hair, and not to judge if that's what she likes, that's what she likes. But it kind of blew my mind because this guy would jerk her around, would play games, and she would tell me how much of a jerk he was. But yet she was still interested in him. And so it didn't make sense at that time. Then when I was studying for a doctorate, I had a friend of mine, and this guy was a great looking guy. He came from, this great gene pool where all his brothers were these big muscular guys who had these dark looks, and we would go out to clubs, and women would just be like, and just like they would just gravitate towards him, and it just, again, it didn't blow my mind because I saw what a good looking guy he was. But the amazing thing was is he told me that, Joe, you know what? Girls like it when a guy treats them like crap. And it never made sense to me, but at that point it did, because I saw that the more he treated them like crap, the more some women chased after him. And at that point it still didn't make sense to me, because why would a woman want to be with someone who treats them like crap? And I remember saying to myself, you know what? If I have to be with a woman who wants me to treat her like crap, then you know what? Then that's not the woman for me, because I'm a nice guy. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a pushover. It doesn't mean I'm a wimp. It doesn't mean I'm boring. So I understand what sometimes when women say when he's too nice. But what I want to do today is shine light on what really happens when a woman says that a guy is too nice. So what happens, remember, is that 96 to 98% of human behavior is all unconscious. So when a woman or a guy is interested in a woman, or she's interested in a guy, and she feels that he's too nice, one of two things is happening. Now, the first thing is that what that woman is really saying is, you know what, the guy's boring. A woman likes a guy where there's some excitement. That's why a lot of times men or women like the chase, because it's not the other person, it's the thrill of the chase. And very often, once that person captures, their mate, their partner, and the chase wears off, the excitement of the chase wears off, they get bored and then they move on to somebody else. So for a lot of women, and again, a lot of men, it's the excitement of the chase. Tony Robbins has this thing about the 6 human needs. Well, one of the needs that we all have as human beings is the need for variety. We need the need for change, the need for excitement. Okay, so very often people who have that need as their high precedent, that's their driving need, they'll go for the excitement. They'll go for the bad boys. And then they'll sit back, but I don't understand it. And the reason they don't understand it is because it's unconscious. It's something that happened way back in their childhood where they got programmed and they learned that excitement is how they get juice in life. So they're literally wired to go after the thing that doesn't work for them. And it's an amazing understanding of human behavior. But once you understand it, it makes perfect sense. I worked with a client several years ago who would be in a relationship where everything was great, and the guy would be treating her great, and then all of a sudden she would start shit. And the guy ultimately got tired of it after about a year and said, I don't get it. Because once everything's great, and you got to look for trouble, you got to start trouble. So when I started working with her and I explained about the need for variety, and she was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? She's like, that's exactly what I did in that relationship. And that's exactly what I've been doing. If everything is okay, everything's going well, then that becomes predictable. That becomes boring for me. So what I did unconsciously was to create drama, to create excitement, because then they would fight, then they would argue, then they'd have makeup sex, and everything was wonderful. And that's where the juice was for her. Unfortunately, the guy ultimately got tired of it and said, screw this, and he left. So you've got to understand that for many women, and this may be true for you if you're watching this, it's not that the guys are boring, it's that you have a tremendous need for excitement. See, I'm going to be quite honest. I think I'm a nice guy. I believe I'm a nice guy. I've been told I'm a nice guy, but I'm not boring. I love to do things, spur of the moment things. I love to travel. I love, when I first met my wife, let's go up to Boston here. Let's go down to Maryland to see Jimmy Buffett. Let's fly out to Vegas. We did all these things where you can still be nice and be exciting and live life. So you've got to learn how to get that need met in a healthy way. So the first thing you need to understand is if you think a guy is boring, it's usually because you have a need for excitement that isn't being met. Now, you can take the lead and you could plan things and you can make it exciting. Because my philosophy is that when you like to have a nice guy who treats you well, and you can get that need for excitement met as well. Because it doesn't matter who's planning the excitement as long as you're getting that need met. So that's the first part. Okay, that's pretty easy to understand. But the second one, and this goes a little deeper, it goes a little deeper into the unconscious mind, a little deeper into a person's history, is when a woman says that a guy is too nice, what she's often saying is, I'm not worthy of a guy who treats me well. And I know somebody, you might go look at this and go, you know what, who would believe that? Well, trust me, there are thousands and thousands of women who don't feel good about themselves, who don't feel worthy, who don't feel good enough of a man to treat them with love, honor, and respect. And when that guy does, and she doesn't feel worthy, she'll do something to unknowingly sabotage the date, the relationship, the marriage. So if you're watching this and this pushes your buttons, you really want to look at this and you really want to work on it, because you'll be attracted to the wrong guys, and that excitement will be like a merry-go-round where it'll go round and round, but you'll never get to the relationship you really want. Because in order for you to really have an awesome, amazing relationship, you have to know that you are worth it, that you are good enough. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you're perfect, because no human being is perfect, but who you are is good enough right now. And when you get to that point and you know you are good enough and you are worthy of a good man, a nice man, a man who treats you well the way you really desire and deserve, then you're in a position to stand up and to create the relationship you want. So I know this is a little deeper video today, but when I had this conversation the other day, it really said, this is something I need to bring up to the GPS for Love community, because I see it happening all the time. He's too nice. Well, here's my question to you. Have you believed that in the past? Okay. Do you believe a guy could be too nice? If so, what is your definition of too nice? How do you know that a guy is too nice? Because it's really important, because I'm not saying that there aren't some guys out there who are wimps, who are pushovers that you can walk all over because they're so in their feminine, and those guys are a turnoff. Absolutely. It's 100% true. But for the most part, when a guy is nice and you have a problem with it, it usually has to do more with your stuff than him actually being nice. So love to hear from you. Love to hear your opinions on this topic today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the box below. As always, honor and privilege to be with you. I'll see you next time. Much love.